January 2023 sessions. This is a 6 months duration program. And apart from that, the counseling class, what are the activity you supposed to do, the timeline of examination or assignment that respective regional center or study center will inform it to you. Otherwise, this is the combined class for this program, postgraduate certificate in climate change, under which the subject is ME 00022, impact of climate change. On this topic, we are going to talk today, under which the block 1, which comprise the 4 units, as per the study material soft copy, which described here. The unit 1 is agriculture, unit 2 forestry, and unit 3 is livestock, and unit 4 is fisheries. On this topic, we are going to discuss what are the impact of the climate of these activities on this field. Under block 1, the primary factors which comprise all this area, or all these divisions which have an impact on climate. So we all know that due to the many activities, it may be in the field of agriculture, it may be in the field of livestock, it may be in the field of fisheries, whatever the anthropogenic activity the human beings are carried out, which have a very severe impact on climate that we already witnessed and we already experienced. Not to know deep, not to understand what are the impact which caused due to this agriculture activity, having an impact on the environment or climate change, that we are going to study. So under which we're going to see about the introductions and these objectives, impacts of agriculture and environment. So again, the water pollution, under which air pollution, which creates the environmental pollution or have an impact on environment, and simultaneously it's going to have an impact on climate change and effects on biodiversity. That means whatever the organisms which are inhabited on the earth, what kind of the impact of these environmental pollution have on them. All these things we are going to study in this unit. So as we know that the climate change is caused due to emission of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. So the heat trapped by the radioactively active gases causes a global warming that we know. It may be various sources. For the global warming, it is a various sources, maybe automobile industries or livestock or the forestry, which all contributes as the harmful chemicals released into the environment, having an impact on the climate. The effect of global warming have been experienced by human, animals, and plants. Like in this unit, we will deal with climate change and agriculture. So particularly this particular unit will have what are the agricultural activities base which contribute an impact on the environment. So about that we are going to study in this chapter. There is a two-way link between the climate change and agriculture, where it is a well acknowledged that change in the world climate is likely to have an impact on agriculture and food security across the globe. So it is not the concern of the one country or one place or one location. Whatever the environmental impact takes place, it have an adverse effect on agriculture related activity and agriculture product and also the food security across the globe. So agriculture practice are also known to have an impact on climate change. So here we are looking after what are the agricultural the practice which contribute or which have an impact on and climate change. A large portion of the world agriculture is rain-fed, and change in the climate play an important role in determining the productivity these regions. What will happen? So when the climate change takes place due to the environmental impact, and simultaneously its impact will be, we can see in the productivity of the agriculture. My slides is moving. Can anybody tell that my slides is are moving or what? Right. Agriculture has a vast impact
Right.
on it. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So the agriculture has a vast impact on environment through land degradation, salinization, and over extraction of water and reduction of genetic diversity in crops and livestock. Thus, the crop and livestock have a huge impact on the overall environment. So what will happen? So we keep on doing these meet our food demand. The area for agriculture activities is go on increase because the population get on increase. So in order to meet the demand of the food security for the population across the globe, so what we do, we do more and more land occupation. That land comes from the forest cover area. So that's why the land degradation or sanitation, a continuous use of the chemicals not to protect our crop or not they increase the our productivity of the food crops. What will happen? The course of time, there will be salinization takes place, and that will go on end with the water body that in turn affect the genetic diversity in crops as well as the livestock. The crop and livestock have a huge impact because of this environmental concern. Then we can see the cropping practice are the main source of water pollution by nitrates, phosphates, and pesticides. So we can see we need to improve our crop productivity because within a limited area or within a water cultivation area, we need to grow a more on the food production. Otherwise, the farmers will land on a loss. So that is why what we need to do, the farmers do, they apply the fertilizers to in order to improve the food production or food quality. So we apply the nitrates, phosphates, and also in order to protect the crop from the pest, because otherwise the pest which attack the crop, which destroy, either the production will go down. So in order to avoid those things, to increase the productivity of the product, of the agricultural product, so we use the pesticides. These chemicals have an impact on this and a climate or environment. Similarly, livestock is also the major anthropogenic sources of the greenhouse gases via methane and nitrous oxide and contribute to a massive scale to other type of air and water pollution. What will happen? These chemicals, whether it may be fertilizer or maybe the pesticides, which are we are applying in the agriculture field, which contributes for the air and water pollution. So it will in turn affect the environmental uh, impact. So we coming under the water pollution which arise due to the agricultural activity. See, this unit, this topic we are focusing what are the impact of climate change due to the agricultural based activities. So the agricultural activities, what we are doing, so which contribute the water pollution. How it contributes the water pollution? Because of this fertilizer what we are applying and the chemical what we are applying in the form of the pesticides not to protect the that contribute the water pollution. The pollution of water by pesticides and other plant protection chemical is a major challenge in most of the developed and developing countries. So, so whatever that because in a large, vast quantity of these chemicals are being used not to protect the crop and as well as the increase the production of the crop. So what will end with this causes an other environmental effect on the climate or the environment. So environmental degradation will take place. This happens to the excessive use of plant protection chemicals. These chemicals especially, what are those chemicals? Is nitrate, phosphates, and get leached in the groundwater or carried off by runoff into waterways. So these chemicals, fertilizer, what we are using, which penetrate into the soil and reach to the groundwater. Here, the groundwater pollution also takes place because of this kind of the activity. And also, these chemicals not only will stay in a one place because it will be during the rainy season or the floors, these chemicals or fertilizers or the pesticides which are carried away by runoff into to other places. So this nutrient overloaded causes what is termed as eutrophication of lakes, reservoirs, ponds, leading to the excessive growth of algae, which suppress the other aquatic plants and animals. So what happens? See, the eutrophication word means there is an enrichment or the accumulation of these nutrients, because what will happen, these fertilizers are washed away and they end up with the water bodies like lakes or reservoirs or ponds, where the unwanted the grow algae getting grow more, and because of this algal growth which impact the other organisms which are present in their premises, it may be the lakes or reservoirs, and suppress the other aquatic plants and animals growth there. The pesticides and herbicides also disturb the biodiversity of an area by destroying all weeds and insects which would be have formed a food for the birds and other animals. What will happen? These pesticides or the herbicides which are we are being used for the control or in the agricultural activity, which simultaneously destroying these all the weeds. That is our target, and also the same time it will destroy the insect, which are the other insect fauna which are present there, and it destroyed there, and the food chain will be get disturbed. Though the pesticides use has reduced in most of the countries over the period of time, the use of herbicide is still on rise in most of the countries. What happened? Because of this harmful effect of the pesticides throughout the world, there is a regulation, the control measures to use in the pesticides, but the herbicide usage is still is going on in order to control or protect our crop or the pest. The agriculture is the dominant anthropogenic source of ammonia. So in the agricultural activity, the ammonia which are getting generated, which cause any air pollution, and livestock account for about 40% of global emission or emission, and the mineral fertilizers for about 16%, and biomass burning and crop residues contribute about 18%. So in these all these anthropogenic activities which comes from these we can see globally a 40% of the minerals fertilizer which are responsible for this pollution, and 16% for the biogas burning. That means the residues of the agricultural waste or the crop which are burning, then it contributes the air pollution. The ammonia being a more acidifying than the sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxide is one of the major cause for acid rain. So what will happen? These component or these chemicals are enter into the atmosphere where then it will makes in a impact through the acid rain formation, which damage the trees and acidify the soils, lakes and rivers, and damage the biodiversity. So what happens, we are basically using these fertilizer, these chemicals in order to in the agricultural activity, but because of that these chemicals in turn again affects the again the biodiversity and the agricultural, that is forestry and other biodiversity in the environment. So animal excreta is a predominant source of ammonia emission and is likely to continue arising both developed and developing countries. So ammonia excretions by this, whatever the animals and also the livestock, which also contribute for this environmental pollution. And agriculture is also responsible for up to half of all methane emissions. So the methane is one of the greenhouse gases, right, which are emerging from these livestock as well as the agricultural activity, which is considered as one of the main harmful gases which cause a global warming. So the methane persists for a shorter time in the atmosphere as compared to the carbon dioxide, but it is a 20 times or more powerful in its warming effect. So what the environmental global, what we call it global warming or increase the temperature of the environment, because this also a major plays a major role that methane gas emission from agriculture and these livestock. The current annual anthropogenic emission methane are around 540 million agriculture tons and are growing at around 5% per year. So we can imagine the methane generation in the environment from the agricultural based activity or anthropogenic activity in total are around 540 million agricultural tons. So we can imagine how much of this a pollutant, a air pollutant, what we call, or greenhouse gas, one of the greenhouse gas, which generated from the anthropogenic activity and contribute for the impact on the environment. The livestock contributes to about a quarter of methane emission by the way of gut fermentation and the decay of excreta. So here, the livestock, what we livestock, it may be this buffalo or the cow. So what they after the digestion, see this methane gas is emits from their respiration is come out and also through by excreta. This methane gas into the environment and this methane emission from the lakes are likely to increase with growing livestock numbers. So once this livestock number is keep increasing, it may be increasing simultaneously. This methane addition to the environment or contribution of the methane into the environmental into it will be go on increasing. So another main source of methane is irrigated rice farming, accounting for about a fifth of total anthropogenic emission. So we can imagine, so what is the contribution of the rice, irrigated rice farming? The rice growth or rice farming, after that, the residues are going to the burning or decomposition. From arising from that, the methane gas will emerge and it will contribute for the as one of the pollutant into the environment. And agriculture is also a key source of yet another important greenhouse gas, that is nitrous oxide. That's also will add into the environment because of this agricultural activity. Though generated naturally, it is boosted by the leaching, volatilization, and runoff of nitrogen fertilizers, and by the breakdown of crop residues and animal waste. All these are escaping this ammonia or nitrous oxide or methane into the environment, and by the breakdown of crop residues and animal waste and animal all this component are added into the environment. And livestock account for about half of anthropogenic emission, and annual nitrous oxide emission from the agriculture are projected by 50% by 2030. So these are the how much the nitrous oxide will add into the environment coming from the agricultural activity that will be go up by 50% by 2030. That is what the study shows. And further, the other important activities which contribute the impact on the environment is called biomass burning, result in carbon dioxide. What biomass means? What all organic matter, if you burn, it is arise from the agricultural residues or agricultural activity. So if you once it burning, what will end with the carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, and smoke particle, which are the byproduct of biomass burning. So we can think that is not only the vehicle or the factories or the industries or the automobiles which contribute the pollutant into the environment, that in turn cause the warming of the globe, that is what we call global warming or now increase the temperature in the environment, and because of that the climate change will take place, right? Apart from that, there are biomass, that what we call organic matter, or the residues of agriculture product, the leftover, uh, because of this biogas burning, which contribute the no, environmental pollutant into the environment. And further, the crop residues either from the promote regrowth or destroyed pest habit is commonly activity is common that we are doing commonly in the agriculture field. The projection suggests that by 2030, the emission of ammonia and methane from the livestock sector of developing countries could be at least 60% higher than at present. So we can imagine the level of contribution of the pollutant into the environment, that is in the form of ammonia and methane, which which are basically originated from these agricultural based activity and livestock. So which is going to be more than 60% than at the present. So it will going to cause a more and more environmental no uh, have an environmental impact. Effect of on biodiversity, one of the biggest challenges facing mankind today, it is to feed the ever increasing population. In their attempt to meet this challenge, human beings are resorting to actives like deforestation and the field consolidation, reduction in the field margin, and head growth and drainage of wetlands in order to bring more and more land under cultivation, being food for the higher animals. So what will happen? We are keep on increasing our the land for the utilization for the agricultural activity. This activity is causing loss of biodiversity, but destroying the habitat of several plant and animal species. So there is a ever increasing the population. So as the population increase, we required the all the things. It may be the land we required more to inhabitant, we required more resource of water, we required the more land for the habitat. So we naturally destroy the forest area or the biodiversity, and because of that, several plant and animal species getting destroyed in during course of time, and many species have become extinct and still many are on the verge of extinction. So what will happen? So there is a forest area. If you remove all the forest cover for the utilization of this agricultural activity, what will happen? The species inhabited there, whether it may be plant or the animal, are gradually pushed to the verge of extinction. And removing the vegetation cover, it will sustain to the or susceptible to the soil erosion. What is the soil erosion? The removal of the soil because of this during the rain or runaway of the waters. If there is a water forest cover, if the rain falls and runoff takes place, the trees or the forest cover will give the protection to the soil, so the soil erosion or the soil removal will be prevented. Yes, but whereas in case of the if you remove the forest cover for the industries purpose or for the agricultural activity purpose, what will happen during the time of this rain or runoff or excess rain, this topsoil will get removed or taken away. So that is what we call in a soil erosion. And the excessive grazing lowers the richness of the fodder species. Again, excessive grazing, where when it will happen, we have the livestock number is more and more or no, more number of livestock. That may be the buffalo or the cows or other the domestic animals, rearing animals. What will happen? We require now the grazing in the field will be more, and intensive agriculture and excessive use of pesticides and the herbicides reduce the insect and the plants. So according to FAO estimates, if steps are not taken to reduce the greenhouse gas emission due to the agriculture activity, the emission from the agriculture, forestry, and fishery, which have more than doubled during the last 50 years will increase by an additional 30% by 2050. So what is the importance of these statements? If you see, if you not reduce the greenhouse gases, that is maybe no, or that's methane and nitrous oxide, all these, if we not reduce, which are basically emerging from the agricultural activity or the forestry or the fisheries, then their impact will be more than 30%. Is already 50% are there, and it will increase another 30% by 2050. The emission from agriculture and livestock production is increased from 4.7 billion tons of carbon dioxide equivalents in 2001 to over 5.3 billion tons in 2011. Then imagine the volume of the carbon dioxide equivalent is released from this emission of from both two sectors. That is, one is agriculture and it is the livestock production. The enteric fermentation is one of the largest source of greenhouse gas emission in agriculture. During the enteric fermentation, the carbohydrates are broken down by microorganisms into the digestive top ruminants and producing the methane as a byproduct. So we are talking about this air pollutant or the greenhouse gas, what we call this methane, which are which are getting generated in the during the fermentation or the breakdown of the carbohydrates in by the microorganism in the digestive tract of ruminants. So where it's happened, we know that what is the number we are going to see in the separately in the next session, the livestock contribution, how much livestock we are having, and because of that, how much the pollution generation takes place, that we are going to see in detail. But here, how this methane gas is generated or contributed by the livestock because of this microbial activities it takes place in the during the position of digestion in the ruminants. Methane as a byproduct, as a methane gas as a byproduct. This methane primary sector is released into the atmosphere if accounted for 39% of the total greenhouse gas emission of the agriculture sector. See, this livestock contributes 39% of total greenhouse gases emission from the agriculture sector. That greenhouse gas is very important or very no contributing factor for the global warming or raising the temperature or what we can say the climate change. Soil microbes convert nitrogen rich fertilizer into nitrous oxide, a greenhouse gas which has 300 times as much heat trapping power as that of carbon dioxide. See, we are here basically looking what are the agricultural based activity which contributes or which contributes the environmental impact. So under which the soil microbes convert nitrogen rich fertilizers. We are applying the fertilizer in the soil to improve the crop, to improve our quality of the food crops, right? So the nitrogen rich fertilizer converted into the nitrous oxide by soil microorganism. So thereby the soil, there is a greenhouse generation will takes place. This greenhouse gas has 300 times much heat trapping power. That means this gas is present in the atmosphere which hold or which trap the temperature, no heat. This gas which trapping the heating power more than that of the carbon dioxide, what we can notice in the no that during the arising from the industries or automobiles. When there is an overloaded of nitrogenous fertilizers, the soil microbes may release high level of nitrous oxide into the atmosphere. So what we do, that is called indiscriminate agriculture activity. What we say, the farmers which you use these fertilizers into the agricultural field to improve the quality or improve the production, right? For that, these nitrates are used as in the form of fertilizers. But what will happen? This nitrous oxide will be converted into fertilizer, converted nitrous oxide, and this nitrous oxide released into the atmosphere. and this will cause and become an environmental pollutant. In 2011, emission generated during the application of synthetic fertilizer accounted for 13% of the agriculture emissions. So it accounts for the 13% for the agricultural emission. So rice farming is also one of the major contributor to greenhouse gases. Methane is emitted in a large quantity by bacteria in the waterlogged soil from rice fields which are flooded. So nitrous oxide is another greenhouse gas that is produced by soil microbes in the rice field. So this in the rice, so these microbes present in the rice field and which convert this nitrogenous fertilizer into the nitrous oxide. This gas is generated from the rice field, making up to 10% of the total greenhouse emission from the agriculture. So again, this rice field again contributes for the greenhouse gas addition into the environment. The climate variability has a ripple effect on crop production, food price, and food security at local and global levels. So what will happen? So this activity again have an impact on the climate. So if there is a climate change takes place, the productivity, the production of agricultural product will be affected, and because of that, what will happen? The food price also will escalate, and further what will happen? Food scarcity at local and global levels happen. So see these the impact and the level by which the climate change takes place because of this pollution, and it in turn affects the all this agricultural activity again. The production shocks in one part of the world can have an immense effect on the food price and hence the food security of the various parts of the world due to the market dynamics. So we can't simply say that I ignore this. No, any impact takes place or food price takes place in one part of the globe, it affects all the places. Hence, the food security is very, very important. And sudden change in the food price could be particularly harsh on the food security of the poor who spend large chunk of their income on the food. So what will happen if the climate change or environmental impact? Because of the environmental impact, there will be a climate change. If there is a climate change, and this it have an impact, direct impact on the productivity of the agriculture, and this because of that, that food production impact on the food production and food security. Understanding the nature of the changing the weather pattern is particularly important for the very reason why we should concern about this aspect. The plant and animal species is specific to a particular region are in a reflection of a climate to which they are adapted. So why this climate change is considered very, very important or very why we can't neglect it, because a particular place having a particular climate. So in because of this scenario, a particular species of organism, whether a plant or an animal, adopted in a particular location or a place because of according to their climate. But if there is any change in the climate or impact on the climate, this biodiversity get affected. Once a change in their natural climate occurs, they tend to migrate to areas having more favorable environment. What will happen? So large number of these animals or these the animals which are inhabited in the forest, which may the birds or other animals which migrate from one place to other place because of the a gradual change in the environmental climate in a particular location. And because of this climate change, these animals are forced to move from one place to the another place. The species that are less mobile are the worst affected, as they have to suffer loss of their habitat and combined with the competition from new invading species. So what will happen? So because of this a climate change in a particular location or a place, it affects the loss of the organism or a species in a particular place. And not only that, and also it needs to a competition with the new invading species. What will happen? A biodiversity or a habitants are affected. The species in a particular location will get moved from one place to another place, where which encounter with the new species, where the competition for the shelter and this competition for the food and competition for other resource will takes place. And because of that, there is an extinction, there is a over extinction of the what the available food will takes place. This results in such a species became extinct. As result, there is a loss in the biodiversity. How this climate change having the biodiversity we can notice because of this climate change. Agriculture and livestock and fisheries are highly dependent on specific climate condition. See, why this is there's a climate change and agriculture and livestock and fishery. See, in any particular crop is suited by a particular place. It doesn't mean that all the crops are grown effectively or productively in all the places, all over the places, because the climates conditions in a different location or different places are different. So accordingly, the agricultural the plants which grows there also differs. Not only the plants, even for the livestock, even for the organism, other organisms, and also the fisheries which inhabited in the, it may be the river or it may be the pond or it may be the ocean. As per the according to their climatic condition or climatic change, these are highly depend on a specific climatic condition. Crops need a specific condition to thrive, like uh, and right kind of soil, a specific temperature, and enough water. See, there are we can see that there are a drought land where the type of crops production is different, and there is a soil specific, because certain crops come in a very specific soil, grow well in a specific soil, and temperature. So all these are determining factors where we have a direct impact on this agricultural activity, not only the agriculture, and also these livestock inhabitation and animals survival in a particular place or area. And even after for that, the enough water availability also may plays a major role in order to a continuous inhabited of animals. Change in a climate could make it difficult for us to grow crops and rear livestock in the way and at place where we used to do in the past. See, it is already we experienced that the change the if the climatic conditions are changed, that crops what we are farmers used to crop, it is very difficult or to expect the same level of crop in a particular area, and also for the livestock rearing. So climate change and variability has a potential to influence crop geography, geography, crop production, and productivity. What will happen? The geographical area of a particular crop, it is having a direct link for the climate, and and the risk associated with the crop farming activity. It is mentioned in the report. According to the study, while the crop yield in the rain-fed regions are influenced both by rainfall and increase the temperature. So the crop yield, we know that it is directly related to the rain-fed regions, influenced by both rainfall and increase in temperature. The irrigated crop yields are influenced by only temperature factors. See, the crop production or crop will having a two important factors. That is one, rainfall availability in a particular area, or irrigation. Irrigation means that is the water availability will be stored and taken to the other place where it's required to crop to grow a crop. But in particular situation, the temperature plays an important factor over the production of the agriculture growth. The study further points out that in case of developing country, while the crop yield is declined are found across most crops, the irrigated crops are rice and wheat are more vulnerable to climate change. So the irrigated crop, what we call the crops and wheat, are more vulnerable to the climate change, what we call particularly temperature. Thus, under the carbon dioxide enrichment, crops may use less water even while they produce more carbohydrate. This dual effect will likely to improve water use efficiency, which is a ratio between the crop biomass and the amount of water consumed. But at the same time, associated climate effects such as higher temperature, change in rainfall, and soil moisture also plays a major role in the agricultural productivity. The increased carbon dioxide leads to strong vegetative growth in both crops and weeds alike, result of which weeds become more prolific and are expected to spread leaven agriculture to newer places. What will happen? These weeds which grows along with this agricultural, no, compete with the nutrition uh, for the along with the crop. There are also studies which prove that higher level of carbon dioxide leads to herbicide resistance, as a result of which more and more herbicides have been applied. So the what the studies indicates, the carbon dioxide leads to herbicide resistance. If you use more carbon dioxide, there is available level present over there, and in such place, it is resistance to the herbicides. What is the chemicals what we are using for protect the crop from the pest? This may also have a serious health implication in time to come. Besides, higher temperatures are favorable for insect and pest proliferation. What will happen due to the climate change, climate change, there will be increase in the atmospheric temperature, a slight, so which is favorable for the insect and pest proliferation. So if these both are increased, naturally it have again impact or affect the agricultural product. The longer growing seasons will enable insect and pest to complete large number of reproductive cycles. Changed wind patterns would lead to spread of windborne pest and disease to newer areas. So we can see change wind patterns. So because of this climate change, the wind pattern, because we can see an unexpected wind which blows or which comes from one place, which arise in the one place, and because of this, what will happen during the wind? It spread windborne pest and disease new areas. So the pest from one location, right? It will carry to the another location by the wind. So where it will create a damage, it creates a problem in the crops. Warmer winter temperature may shorten the overwintering period of the pest larvae, resulting in the higher proliferation in the next seasons. What will happen? Warmer winter temperature, so which also shorten the period of the pest larvae. So what will happen? The pest larvae means the emerging a pest or the adult insect from the larval condition, because of the temperature condition which will favorable. So the more larvae are emerging from the insect, and the population will be more, and it will in turn affects the agriculture growth. Thus, in increased weeds, pests, and diseases could be soon be the problem calling for immediate action. Further, the crop quality food system can be vulnerable to climate change. See, not only these during the crop production and the productivity will affect because of this environmental pollutant or environmental impact, but also the crop quality, that means the food, the product of the food, also vulnerable to climate change. Grain quality of wheat, example protein content, is highly susceptible to current variation in the climate and affect the type of food that we can producing through. For example, gluten level and related tough strength are varied because of the climate change. So what will the study shows the quality of the food, what we the quality of the food produced because of the changed climatic condition, the polluted environmental condition, the quality of the food also affected or largely. That's what this the study explained how this environmental climate change or environmental impact having the effect on the quality of the food production. Further, climate change is expected to impact both crops and livestock alike. Increased temperature is bound to increase stress level among the livestock. So what will happen? See, this is very funny. What happens that during the we are looking here, there is a climate change, there is an environmental impact arise from agricultural activity and livestock arise. Because of the livestock, what we call the methane gas and a greenhouse gas, which contribute for one of a pollutant for in a increasing environment temperature. But the same once the temperature global temperature increase, our atmospheric temperatures increase, it's have an impact on the stress level of among the livestock. So the increased level of a temperature which have an impact on the livestock, this may result in decline the rate of reproduction among the livestock and increase the incidence of disease and also loss of appetite. So what happened? This livestock which contributes for the environmental impact, but the same time the same livestock having victimized or have their impact on their on this the rate of reproduction because the stress level because of higher increase in temperature and increase in incidence of disease will takes place among the livestock. The increased level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere may result in production of less nutritious feed and forage which may be required to be supplementary for additives and thus adding to the cost of the grower. What will happen? The increased level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere may result in the production of less nutritious feed in the for the livestock. So agriculture sector can be also act as a sink to greenhouse gas. Firstly, agriculture sector can reduce its own emission. Plants use carbon dioxide for photosynthesis, hence they have the ability to offset emission from other sector by reducing carbon dioxide. So what will happen? The agriculture sector also act as a removal of the greenhouse gases. How it removes the greenhouse gas? For example, a carbon dioxide is one of the gas which an agent or which greenhouse gases which contributes for the warming of the atmospheric warming or global warming, right? But this same carbon dioxide are utilized by these plants or the green plants during the photosynthesis. So during photosynthesis, what will happen? This is one of the important raw material which are used incorporated for the production of the food by the plants. So that is why the load of the carbon dioxide will be reduced by the carbon dioxide. That's what we say because a large number of plantations were required because of the reason. Why? The plants use the carbon dioxide by which the load of the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere or the environment will be reduced. So biomass generated in the agriculture sector can be used to produce biofuel, which can be used substitute to fuel fossil fuel, which are currently used for energy. See, fossil fuel, what we are using, that is petrol, diesel, and all burning when the vehicle, or even which are contributes for these environmental pollution, right? But the same biomass generated agriculture sector, no, it be used to produce a biofuel. So biofuel we are using because this biomass generation gas, which can be substitute for the biofuels, fossil fuels. Improved management practice in agriculture can help in storage of carbon in plants and soil. So improved management of practice in the agriculture can help the storage of the carbon in plant. That means the carbon, the plant utilizes the carbon, right? And every tons of carbon added to stored in the plants or soil remove 3.6 tons of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, right? Every tons of carbon added to and stored in the plants, right? And removes the 3.6 ton of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. The studies what shows the removal of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Agriculture can increase soil carbon by following. Agriculture can increase the soil carbon. So how it happen? A cropland management, several management practice can increase cropland soil carbon. A carbon input to soil can be increased by increasing crop productivity. Further, growing crops that produce large amount of residues, doing away with the practice of fallow periods between crops and efficient use of fertilizers. Management of grazing land. So the soil carbon of grazing land can be increased by improved management of practice. This management practice include use of proper fertilization, irrigation, cultivation of the legumes, improved grazing, and use of improved grass species. So by which we can manage this carbon. And change in the land use can also help to increase carbon in soil. A conversion of crop lands to forest or grassland can increase soil carbon. So the conversion of this, or rotation of the crops, yeah, so increase the addition of the carbon, in the soil. Highly degraded area like reclaimed mines, saline soils, eroded lands have an high potential of carbon sequestration if the productivity plan cover with high rates of carbon inputs from the residues are achieved. So now we coming to the forestry. How this forestry will contribute for this environmental pollution into the having a and has an impact on the climate change, right? So under which we are again going to the this is the second unit under the block one. Okay, we are seeing these how direct and indirect effect of global warming takes place because of this forestry that's impact on from the forestry and negative impact of climate change, right? This and pest and disease outbreaks and wildlife. So globally, forests cover about one third of world land surface and make up habitat nearly 18 to 90% of the world terrestrial biodiversity, such as plant, animals, and birds and insects. So globally, the forest cover about one third of world. How much the forest cover is? One third of world land surface and make up to the habitat nearly 80 to 90%. More than half of the world total forest trees are found in just five big countries. That is the Brazil, Canada, China, Russia, and USA. See, more than half of the world total forest trees are found in the five big countries. So, as we know, forest and climate are intimately intertwined. So, we can't separate the climate and the forest. So, because of this forest, the climate having is their influence on over that. The forest have played a very significant role to regulate the climate. So, the forest cover is very important because which regulate the climate, which regulate the rainfall and groundwater, soil of the earth, because the forest covers which gives a protection to the soil of the earth and also the groundwater enrichment. Forests not only provide food, fodder, fiber, fuel, and shelter, but also they play a crucial role in overall environmental conservation. See, so where there is a forest cover, what and all it gives the food, for the animals or the human beings who are nearby, fruits in the form of fruits and no other forms of the eatables, the other, and mainly for the animals and the livestock. And also it gives a fiber fuel. See, the forest cover, because of the rural or tribal areas, the people are used the forest as a fuel, that is forest product and shelter to living. So forest gives a wide range of these benefit for the both animals and human beings and plants, and that is why it play very important role in the environmental conservation. The forestries act as a regulator to balance the atmospheric oxygen and carbon dioxide. This is very important point. The forestry area trees regulator. Why? Because atmospheric oxygen. Because during the photosynthesis, what will happen? The trees which release the oxygen into the environment and absorb the carbon dioxide. So the carbon dioxide is a pollutant in the environment, which the plants use. The trees and the plants and forest used as a raw material for the production synthesis of the food and release the oxygen, which is essential for the uh, animals, for human beings. It has been estimated that forests and forest soils currently store more than 1 trillion tons of carbon in the world, which is twice the amount of present in the atmosphere. So what will happen? The forestry, imagine the load of this and the carbon which the forest or the green cover the forest which hold more than 1 trillion tons of carbon in the world, which is stored in the forest. That means in the plants. In recent times, many researchers studies 20 primary sectors have been conducted to understand various impact of climate change on our natural environment, water resource, types of vegetation, and wildlife. As we know, the climate change is directly related to global emission of greenhouse gas, especially the carbon dioxide. So, because of this global change, the climate change is directly affected by the greenhouse gases, particularly the carbon dioxide. As the process of climate change is a complex phenomenon, it is not easy to understand the impact of climate change on forestry. To understand the significance of climate change on forest due to global warming, it is necessary to know something about of the forest types and found on the earth. So we can what kind of the forestry are there, where the climate accordingly how the climate conditions are prevail over there. All are very important to understand the climate change in a particular area. There are mainly three types of forest found around the world related to the climate regimes. So there is a see the climate, it determines the growth or the availability of a particular species or the particular fauna or flora of in a region. The climatic conditions are very important. So they comprise of the equatorial and tropical forest, the temperate forest, and forests associated with colder climates. Accordingly, the forests are divided into a three major categories. There are many studies to indicate that Earth is warming from North Pole to the South Pole. So why we are studying or worrying all this, this aspect? Because of it is very clear that the Earth is getting warming, and studies indicate that a global average surface temperature has increased by more than 1.6 degree Fahrenheit or even more in sensitive polar regions since 1906. See, since 1906, 1.6 degree Fahrenheit temperatures are increased. If the temperatures are increased, it has impact on the climatic condition of a region or location wherever it is applicable. There it affects the other activities. The event of global climate change is a serious challenge faced by the international community. The greenhouse gas which are contribute to the heating of the global globe include carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and chlorofluorocarbons. So, what are these greenhouse anthropogenic activity which generate the greenhouse gases which are responsible for the warming the atmosphere, or we call global warming, or those gases called greenhouse gases. And those gases are a carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and chlorofluorocarbons. In general, it is expected that natural habitats will shift towards the polar region and move upwards in the elevation. With the shift of this natural habitat, forest biodiversity will be forced to adapt. So, forest diversity, because of this, um, these changes in the climatic condition or changes in the temperature in different places in habitat, what will happen? The biodiversity will also forced to adapt in a new conditions. And as a result, species composition in a forest is likely to change, and those species and population which are already vulnerable will potentially become extinct. If what will happen? A continuous impact of in a climate in a particular location or area have an adverse impact on a fauna and flora of a particular place. So it end with extinction of this species in that area. What we notice across the globe. Further, it also been estimated that with climate change, there will be a greater instance of extreme climatic events. So, what will happen? These climatic changes is keep happening and disturbing the environmental favorable condition. So, what will happen? We can witness or we can notice in extreme climatic events such as heavy rains in a particular location, or heat waves, then flow and droughts. Even now, if you see the newspaper or you see the news, we can see in many parts of the world in recent times, we can witness there are heavy rain in a particular place and cause a drastic damage of this livelihood or the forest or whatever it may be. So this because of the extreme climatic condition, because of this kind of events or this kind of the calamities are happening here and there, we can see in not only the one location or one place, in several parts of the globe, we can say the heavy rainings are happening even the recent times. And also we can notice the heat waves. So because of this a climatic uh, changed condition, these type of extreme events will further affect forestries, plants, and animal population. So what will happen? A sudden rainfall or over rainfall or a complete drought or heat waves or floods, what will happen? The plant in a particular place and the animal population in a particular place and area will get affected largely and can leave the forest more prone to disturbance. Such a frequent and intense forest fire, pest, and disease outbreak. And also we can see because of these heat waves, we can notice where the forest fire everywhere and destroying the thousands of acres of the forest. If you open the day, if you watch the news in the TV, you can see we can see there is a forest USA, there is a forest fire. There is a Brazil, there is a forest fire. In Africa, there is a forest fire. So during because of these heat waves, the forest will catch the fires and destroy thousands of acres of the forest cover. Not only the forest cover will be removed because of this forest fire, but also the fauna, the animal community, the animals which are present, microbes or the animals, other animals which are present or inhabited in a particular place or get destroyed or moved from that location. And also not only that, and pest will be the pest level will be increased, and also the disease outbreak will take place because of the unpredicted and more severe impact of these activities. And forest ecosystem, which are expected to be particularly more vulnerable to the impact of climate change. So the forest ecosystem is very, very important in order to maintain the a climatic pattern or climatic condition. Because of this, the forest ecosystem itself is a vulnerable because of the climate change, include mangroves in coastal zones, boreal and tropical forest where this impact we can notice. According to the Koch and Mune 1996, the direct effect of global warming and forest ecosystem will be more complex than the direct effect of increased carbon dioxide concentration. So the direct of global warming, it is not only happen because of the one particular reason, it contributes all the anthropogenic activity which leads to global warming, having an impact on forest ecosystem will more complex than this. The direct effect of increased carbon dioxide concentration because of temperature fluctuation influences all the physiochemical and biological processes in any ecosystem. Whereas the direct influence of carbon dioxide is almost entirely limited to this photosynthesis and aperture and the respiration, because this carbon dioxide process what will happen, it is balanced somewhat. The plants use the carbon dioxide, and the same way this and it is released from the biofuel activities. The response to change temperature or carbon dioxide concentration due to the climate change can be expected to vary among different ecosystems, both in terms of magnitude and direction. That is true. In case of this carbon dioxide, respect to change in the temperature or carbon dioxide, which is not in constant in all the places, it may be changed to place or location to location based upon the activity and the forest cover and other factors. Depending upon the properties of the dominant species, interaction among various species, and initial physical and chemical environmental conditions. All this, no, it varies. The carbon dioxide and temperature will be vary accordingly. A change in the climate would be expected to shift a plant distribution as species expand in newly favorable areas and decline in increasing hostile locations. What will happen even this during the wind? The what call this the seeds, the plant grains on the all this plant occurring in a new area and carried by the wind or carried out by the water, and because of this unfavorable condition in one location, and the new place that will be get generated from the other places. The global climate change resulting due to increasing temperature and subsequent changes in the resource available may shift the tree species. So what will happen? The global climate change, what will happen? Increase the temperature and subsequent changes in the resource availability may shift the tree species, and the whole world in latitude and upward elevation will take place. It is also expected that global climate change could significantly contribute to increase in the severity of future insect outbreaks. So the climate change, it also will contribute the insect outbreaks will take place, right? And which is favorable for those pest or the insect. Since the insect feed on leaves, insect outbreak often leads to trees defoliation, subsequently killing a large number of forest trees. What will happen if these insect populations are um, outbreaks are more, then what will happen? It leads to the trees defoliation. It will eat up all the leaves, no, because the leaves become a feed for this insect, and that will lead. And subsequently, what will happen? Large number of forest trees will be destroyed. Or okay, a rise in temperature may promote and enable some insect species to reproduce, grow, and develop faster, alter their seasonal life cycle, and expand their range of northeast. What happened? It also impacts on the reproductivity of this insect, and also alter seasonal life cycle of this organism in a particular location. The invasive plant species can also displace and replace important native vegetation species. What will happen because of this climatic change? The plants also forced to grow in the new places are big because of this carry out by this wind or the water, whatever they will mode up their transportation the new places, and where the new species invasive no and it becomes important native vegetation species, then it displaces the native species in a particular location. Because of this a new species no in a particular area, because of the invasive species often lack natural predators. The events of fire in any forest area, whether wildlife or controlled burning, has an important role of contribute the global warming. So what will happen? The events of forest fire, the fire in any forest area. If the forest get fired, what will happen? The temperature will get increased. Carbon dioxide will increase into the atmosphere. Naturally, the atmospheric temperature will get increased and contribute for the global warming. And forest fire causes immediate release of large quantity of carbon monoxide and smaller amount of other gases, including methane, as much more potent greenhouse gas than the carbon dioxide. So destruction of forest stands due to forest fire will also reduce the total amount of photosynthesis and therefore. So what will happen? The photosynthesis activities will be affected. If there is a forest cover, if it is a forest or there is a trees, the large number, the photosynthesis will be takes place, and the in cooperation of the carbon dioxide, reduction of the carbon dioxide and more release of the no, oxygen will be takes place. But if you forests are destroyed, what will happen? This photosynthesis will be reduced and total amount of oxygen will be reduced and the contribute to increase in the atmospheric concentration of carbon dioxide. Because if the no forest cover or forest trees are there, this carbon dioxide intake will be not there. So the carbon dioxide level in the atmosphere will be more. Forest fire is a major disturbance factor and common phenomenon in the most of the forest. Availability of large quantity of ignition sources and flammable materials in the forest facilitate the frequent occurrence of forest fire in the vegetated areas in all ecosystem. So what will happen? Why this forest fire takes place? Of the availability large quantity of ignition sources, that means a dry in the forest there is a dry materials will be there, dry leaves will be there, and all these are flammable material and these are very much susceptible. If the temperatures are high, if any sparkling takes place, then immediately the first get forest fire may arise. Warmer spring season and higher summer temperature coupled with a decrease in water availability, accumulation of dried leaves and woody materials in forest can increase the risk of wildfire. So wildfire, how it will happen? Warmer spring season, if in a particular a location or the areas or then where there is a warmer season or heat waves is appears and high temperature, then coupled with decrease in water availability and same time that there is no less water availability, so which accumulate the dried leaves and woody materials, so that contributes increase the risk of wildfire. So the forest fire or wildfire, it will happen where the water scarcity will be there, water less quantity will be there, less rainfall will be there, and these materials will contribute for the catch up for the wildfire. Forest fire can also contribute to climate change since they can release large quantity of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere in a very short time. So what will happen once the forest catch the fires? Immediately the end product or what will happen? The release of large quantity of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So in a very short time, this carbon dioxide will be released into the atmosphere. Forest as a carbon sink. Same time, the forest which act as a carbon sink, it reduce the load of the carbon dioxide. How it happens? Carbon dioxide is produced by the combustion of the woods, fossil fuels, and other materials. It also principal byproduct of the respiration of all living organisms on the earth. So it is also byproduct of the all living organisms. It becomes with breath we will exhale this carbon dioxide out into the environment. In the nature, carbon dioxide is naturally captured from the atmosphere through the physical, chemical, or biological process. What will happen during the process of photosynthesis? These carbon dioxides are utilized, so whereby the load of carbon dioxide will be reduced. Naturally, forest trees and plants help by removing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and converting into the carbon compounds during the photosynthesis. That is why we require more forest cover, more plants, or more green, or more trees around, then will reduce the carbon load in the atmosphere. So fisheries. So how come the fisheries which contribute the affect the impact because of environmental climatic change? If you see ocean circulation, surface wind, storm systems, and waves, chemical factors, salinity and freshwater content, oxygen concentration, and carbon uptake and acidification, which all contributes this in the fishery sector. Fisheries, including aquaculture, are important to look at from the global perspective, mainly for food security, livelihood generation, and economic well-being of people in the coastal area and beyond. So the fishery is very very important sector for the meet the food demand and food for large vast number of the people, and and also it is lively generation for economic well-being. Not only the food, no, it is in addition to the providing the food sources or the proteins are there, and also it provides the economic well-being of a people in coastal area and beyond. About 3 billion people depend on animal protein, and about 400 million people are heavily dependent upon fish and their food security. So how much this important sector, the fisheries uh, activity with respect to the providing the food security and economy to the population. Aquaculture alone shares about 50% of global fish consumption. According to the IPCC 2014, more than 850 million people live within the 100 kilometers, especially in the tropical coastal system that includes coral reefs and mangroves. So more than 50% of 850 million people are living within 100-kilometer distance of these coastal areas and depend upon these activities. Fishery activity derive the direct as well as indirect benefits, which include food security through the fishing and the aquaculture, coastal protection, management, tourism, and other cultural services. So worldwide population trend is increasing in general, and demand for fish likely to be doubled by 2030. So is the dependence upon the fish which will be largely met through the aquaculture. So globally, the upper ocean mean temperature increased by 0.11 centigrade to 75 meters depth, whereas by 0.15 centigrade into 700-meter depth from 1971 to 2010. So what will happen? The global upper ocean upper ocean mean temperature, that means ocean water body temperature is increased 0.2.7 from 1971 to 2010. The increase in temperature have been recorded even in depth range of 700 meter to 2000 meter. So even the depth of this sea water, these increased temperatures has been noticed. So what kind of impact it's having on fishery? That is the concept. Why this fishery concept come here? Because of the rise variation in the temperature in the ocean level, and this the productivity of the fish also will be have impacted. So between 1950 and 2000, an increase of zero point 0.1 centigrade per decade was observed in the Indian Ocean, whereas increase of zero point zero 0.08 centigrade decade in the South Atlantic and South Pacific and North Pacific was recorded. So these are the changes what notice with respect to temperature in the ocean. So relative increase in ocean surface warming lead to enhancement of thermal stratification of upper ocean. So what will happen? So this relative increase the ocean surface warming. Though because of this high temperature environmental condition, the surface water of the ocean also getting heated and the temperature will increase. The sea level change warming leads to sea level change. Warming leads to expansion of a liquid volume. So is with oceanic water. Warming leads to expansion and cooling leads to the contraction of water volume. So the volume of the water, the sea level, what happened? If there is an increase in the temperature, the sea level naturally will get increased because the melting of these glaciers, ice, and the water level get increased. Rise in the global mean sea level recorded by 1.7 year from 1901 to 2010. Rise in the global mean sea level recorded 1.7 millimeter per year from 1901 to 2010. This much level, the sea level get increased. The strong decade scale fluctuation have been observed for the coastal line of the Indian Ocean as well. The rate of sea level rise is expected to further increase due to increased thermal expansion and the continuous process of melting glaciers and ice sheets between 2010 to 2100. What's happening? Because of this increased temperature and because of this pollutant, because of the climatic change, it has an adverse impact on the polar regions because the high temperature leads to melting down the glaciers and ice sheets, for whereby the sea level is keep increasing. Salinity and freshwater content, salinity of ocean differs from one to other, and this impact oceanic circulation and other stratification. Therefore, salinity contributes the ocean's capacity to store heat and carbon and circulation of the nutrients. So salinity, what it contributes, the ocean capacity to store the heat, because the ocean that because if it is water become no more salinity, then it the holding capacity will be more towards the heat and the carbon circulation. The observed trends in ocean salinities are likely to continue since average global temperature continues to increase. What will happen? These average temperatures keep increasing, and this and the ocean salinity also will get increased. That is what we notice in the over the period of time. The concentration of the dissolved oxygen is the vital factor that decide and distribution and the abundance of marine flora and fauna. See, in water bodies, the dissolved oxygen concentration is very, very important and plays very crucial role because the distribution of the abundance marine flora and fauna based on this availability of this oxygen concentration. Increase in mean global surface temperature result in decline in oxygen holding capacity. So what will happen if that increase the temperature of the globe or the surface water that decline the oxygen holding capacity of the water. So if the oxygen holding capacity of water decrease, what will happen? It impacts on these and the aquatic organism survival there. This has happened especially in the upper layer of the equatorial Pacific and Atlantic Ocean and in Indian Oceans. Apart from warming, which contributes only 15% of the major factors, microbial respiration that contribute 85% of decline in the oxygen concentration. So microbial respiration, because that contribute 85% decline in the concentration. What will happen? Because of this microbial respiration, the oxygen concentration also will get decreased. Carbon uptake and acidification of ocean act as a primary reservoir in organic carbon. The partial pressure of both atmospheric and oceanic carbon dioxide has increased over the time. The global oceanic carbon dioxide inventory witnessed an increase from 1994 to 2010. Carbon dioxide, after combining with water, forms a weak acidic acid, resulting in a gradual decrease of pH value and that acidification of oceanic water. What will happen? The how this the carbon dioxide alter the combined with the water forms to form a weak acid, resulting in the decrease in the pH value. So currently, the mean pH of surface water of open ocean ranges between 7.8 to 8.4. This is called mean pH value of this ocean water. It is predicted that in 100 years, the average surface ocean water pH could be much lower in comparison to the last 50 million years. So what will happen over there because of this temperature, because of this carbon addition and this the acidification, and this pH of the water will reduce. And sea level rise. The three main drives for sea level rise are thermal expansion due to the warming of oceans, melting of glaciers rise, ice caps, and the ice sheets of Greenland and the Atlantic and storms. So these are the factors which contribute for this sea level rise. Rise in sea surface warming and decline in pH lead to reduction in the body size of individual animals and the shifting of the biogeographics of the entire population. What will happen? So rise in seawater warming, the increase in the slight seawater warming, and simultaneously decline in the pH of the water and reduction in the body size of the individual animals and shifting the biogeographic of the entire population of the aquatic fauna. These changes in population density contribute to the change in the species abundance. The composition of trophic level and linkage and also food web at large, it impacts on the entire food web of the ocean. The combination of sea surface warming, oxygen deficient zone, and decreasing pH value are contributing the variety of changing in the biological system and food web at large. So what will happen? We know that more than on the land, the large organisms live in the oceans. Productivity. So this will get affected because of the warming the surface water and decline in the pH value. It largely affect the biological system or entire food web. So active fishes and crustaceans demand more oxygen, and so they migrate to or escape from place having oxygen deficient condition. So what happens? The fishes and crustaceans which are embedded in the water body are required more oxygen in the water. If the oxygen concentrations are decreased or the pH values get changed or decrease, and this aquatic organism will escape, migrate from one place to other place. Animals, including fish, escape, adapt, extinct, or even change biomass in response to the environmental changes. So in nature, only those living being can survive which can adapt to the change. So what will happen during the continuous periodical change in the environmental condition or environmental situation because of the pollutant or other activities, those living organisms can survive which are adapted to new change. The adaptation can be temporary or a permanent. For example, uh, big A tuna adapts temporarily and Humboldt squid adapts permanently to the oxygen deficient conditions. So what happens? These species are will adapt according to these the prevail environmental conditions. It is important to note that adaptive capacity of an individual animal might not match with the rate of change of the external factors of environmental condition imposed upon. So, in many species, the adaptation is very difficult and they may not adapt with the changing environmental condition. And what will happen in due course of time that will get extinct and which not match with the changing environmental factors. Phenological shift change and predator-prey system in the nature and food web large. Since the large fishes go got and it is difficult to establish correlation between the food web uh, response and also climate change. What will happen because of this changes in the environmental prevailing condition in a particular location, some species will not be adapted to change and will get move into other places. So the oceans are the fundamental pillar to global food security. The three ocean subregions, northern hemisphere, high altitude spring plume systems, and coastal boundary system and eastern boundary upwelling ecosystem are contribute more than 80% of the global marine fishery catches. So in this overall studies or this unit, what we study the impact of climate during the its impact on the agricultural activities and impact on the fisheries, impact of the forestries, and the impact of these water body oceans. All this will how it affects the environmental impact affects the system or ecosystem and productivity same way how much it will contribute the environmental degradation. That's what we studied in this block of this entire unit. So thank you very much for your patient hearing. And dear learners, if you have one or two questions you may ask, uh, I am ready to clarify. And tomorrow I'm having the class of the same time, 3 o'clock to 5 of this, where we can study about the livestock and about the arise from the global warming effects on that. So thank you very much. Now we'll take one or two questions. Otherwise, we will end the session. Open to the participant. Madam?
Sir,
Yeah,
if you please share this presentation in our WhatsApp group,
yeah.
so it will be helpful for us.
Okay. So how is the presentation? How is the topic you can take some or two something
Mm-hmm.
information? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, okay. So I'll make to
Mm-hmm.
available this PPT no in the email what we can share to you people, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That,
yeah.
yeah, that will be
Okay,
made available to you people. You can take this
okay,
also.
okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Please take the timetable. What all already we shared the timetable. Accordingly, please all of you join the session. This because we are organizing this class for all of you people. How many are there from RC Bangalore in this group? Any RC Bangalore learners are there? Okay, fine. So if you no question, we'll wind up the session. Okay, Emma Mali madam. 1 minute. Madam. Okay. Okay, thank you very much for all your presence. We can leave the session now. Okay, thank you. Yeah, no questions. We can please join tomorrow, right? Okay, all of you please join tomorrow. We'll meet again tomorrow at 3 o'clock.